Okay.
Someday I'll actually learn how to operate Zoom. It's not as if I use it, every single day, all the time.
Right.
All right. Well, welcome to viewers of the present or the future, because these will be saved on YouTube, so you can look at them anytime. I'm Eric Gross. Introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Carolina.
Hi, I'm Brandon.
And we are developers, and we are building in public. And what we've been doing for the past few sessions is building a full stack MERN application. That's MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. Those are the technologies we happen to be using. And to briefly catch anyone who's watching up to speed, in our first session, we did a lot of design work with a use case of customer service reps for a retail company needing some sort of a computer program to manage their operations relating to taking orders, searching through tables of products, assigning those products to an order, tracking the status of an order, and modifying information about a customer, including the biographical data and their address. And so we're building that application. In our session last night, we got all the way to the point where, as the pretending to be the lead developer, I built out the back end of our application, the API, to the extent that it has a structure for files and folders, right? We have our structure of our application, and we built out one single endpoint. We can successfully send in an HTTP request into the application that lists all addresses, and the application successfully routes that request to the right code inside our application and interacts with a database that we have, a MySQL database, and pulls all the contents of the address table and then sends them back to whoever requested them. So that's what we are. The first thing I'm going to do, that I almost always do whenever I'm about to work on an application, is I'm going to spin it up and make sure it works so that no bugs have crept in overnight, right? And so that will also give some visual to what I just talked about. And then after that, the agenda for tonight, we've got a short meeting tonight. We're going to spend about an hour here, and all we really want to accomplish is getting both, first of all, getting the code that I built on my machine out to the repository we have on GitHub, and then having both Brandon and Carolina pull down that code to their machines, make sure that they can actually, run the application. Along the way, no problem, Brandon. Along the way, we're actually gonna have to make sure that both Carolina and Brandon can, they have a database server set up on their machine, because I have a database server. It's right. I'm going to share my screen. I am running a MySQL server right here. It has our database, the customer service rep database right here. They have to have the exact same thing. So we're gonna have to get them set up with that. So our goal is, I don't know if we have enough time or not, but our goal is by the end of this, both Carolina and Brandon will be fully set up to do development on the actual backend project, our API. So I hope that sets some context for what we're doing. Carolina is awesome, and we're watching the chat for anything significant people want to throw at us. I'm also going to pull up on another screen here the chat and see if I can get that to work.
Yeah, we have Tucker Tech. Hey, girl. Thanks for coming.
Excellent.
She's from 100 Devs. She's an accountant transitioning to tech, and she's pretty awesome, actually.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you all for being here. We'll do whatever we can to help. Again, as we've stressed in previous sessions, what we're really trying to do is not provide some curated, perfect tutorial experience where everything just happens to work nicely, because that's not how development is. There's fits and starts and successes and losses and everything in between. And we want to show you a little bit of that and how it goes down. But for now, let me do what I said, and we'll get the application up and running. This is our code base right here. And I'm going to first just start the application running an npm start. You can see it down here in the terminal window below. This is a Node application, and that will start up the application. It'll start executing the code beginning with what's in this server.js file. And we should see it up and running in a moment here. Good. So the server is listening. And again, we have an API endpoint already working. If you look at the server.js, we move that server.js. We have it listening on port 8080, as it says right here in the console. We're looking for possible correct addresses or routes, I'm sorry, into this API in the route.address file. And in that route.address file, we have only one route fully defined. It is this router.get. So what that means precisely is if we send in an HTTP request to this exact path, API/address, and the verb on that request is a get, then we're going to call this function right here. That function is in our controller, which is at this path right here. So if we go to that path and look at the controller, this is the actual find all function that is going to be called, and it's going to reach into the database. It can access it through this code up here, can access the database, reach into the database and get every row in the address table. You can see every row in the address table right here because I've selected all from the addresses table, and there they are, all 101 of them. So let's test that. I'm going to test it with a nice little utility I've added, this test.http. This is a send request to get all addresses. You can see that it goes to the endpoint API/address, and it's a get verb. We click send, and we get a 200 OK back as our response code. The HTTP response came back with a 200 OK, and here are all 101 addresses. So our application is up and running. We're good. That's fine. Let's go ahead and stop the application. And now I want to do what we said and get Carolina and Brandon up and running. So the first thing we'll verify, I want to make sure that we've actually added you to the repository. So
I don't think you have yet.
Okay, good. So we'll do that right now. We'll do it live. Okay. So first things first, I'll go to my GitHub, and this no matter who your source control provider is, whether it's GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket, or there's tons of them, the same similar thing would have to happen. We would have to go here to let's see, what repository did I make for it? Learn in public MERN right there. So I have a repository. It has no code in it at all yet, and that's why it defaults. Even though I'm on the code tab, it defaults to the instructions on. Hey, it'd be kind of nice if you put some code here. I don't have any, but let's go to settings and click on collaborators.
So, Eric, I have a question. Whenever we get a job and we go to work, are we gonna use like our same GitHub account that we use for personal projects?
No, almost always. Your company's gonna have its own source control accounts. Okay. For example, if they use GitHub, which is insanely popular, typically what will happen is there'll be organizational accounts.
Oh, sure.
Or individual accounts, but they're for your work persona.
Okay.
It's very, very rare that in a corporate environment, you pull in your own personal GitHub account for it. However, I highly recommend that you always keep up, doing side work, personal investigation learning, do it on your personal GitHub account.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, good question. All right, so you haven't invited any collaborators yet. Let's click add people. Carolina, can you give me your GitHub username?
It's arete, ARETE _ Carolina.
I didn't find it.
Well, okay. It's capital A. Do you think that makes a difference? Let me copy them.
Nope.
Copy the link and send it to you.
Good, excellent. Yeah, throw it in Discord or into Zoom chat, whatever you need.
I just put it on the Zoom.
Let's go ahead and get you mine too.
Oh, it's dash. It's not underscore, it's dash.
Oh, it is.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Dummy. I told you I'm still sleepy today.
All right. So you are added to the repository. Now it's going to ask, it says pending invite, your contributor. What's interesting is it didn't ask me what role I was going to give you, but I will adjust that. All right. And then Brandon Mitchell 217. So this would have to be done, not, to address your question, Carolina. An administrator, probably your tech lead or someone else, would have to actually add you to the repositories so that you actually have permissions on them, right? So
Okay.
can you guys both check your emails and see whether you got an invite from my GitHub account?
Yep.
Awesome. Go ahead and respond.
I'm gonna decline it.
You what? I didn't catch that, Carolina.
I said I was gonna decline it.
It's so funny. Get out of my head. I was going to say, you can decline it if you want. All right. So while we're waiting for that, because I need you guys it'll go through the system. I'm going to tell you the corniest joke. Ran into an 8 or 9 year old.
Are you gonna give us grandpa jokes or dad jokes?
This is, you know what? It's probably a dad joke. Probably a dad.
Okay.
I think this boy was 8 or 9 years old, a friend of a, son of a friend. And he comes up to me and he says, "Did you hear about the pencil with 2 erasers?" I'm like, "No, what?" He says, "It's pointless." Like, oh, wow. It's nice. It's masterfully done. It's masterfully done. So that's my corny joke. All right, let me go and give a refresh and see if it updates status here. Good, collaborator. Now, I think if I go in here, action web, we'll just see what kind of permissions you have. It's odd. And it doesn't give me anything on what permissions. All right, we're just going to see what happens.
Is it because we don't actually have anything in the repository yet?
It might be. We'll see if that changes when we put something in. So let's get something in the repository. Now, again, this is rarely something that you would do as an entry-level developer, but you might. And it's super helpful to kind of see how it works. So you'll see what we did here is we may have had these design sessions and everything, but some single developer needs to produce the first code that's going to go into the repo. I did that as the, quote unquote lead developer. And so I have on my computer, the only working copy of this computer program. If my computer went down right now, we'd be toast. So we need to get it onto source control right away. So here's our repository, learn in public MERN. And you can see instructions. It says quick setup. If you've done this before, we're going to go slow. I want you to see each step, what's going on. We could create a new repository on the command line, but we have a repository locally on my machine. If we look at my machine, you can see here that I have a .git ignore. And here's another thing that's kind of interesting to look at. If we find this folder, if I go to repos, and then what do I call it? Learn in public MERN. Okay. I want you to look here at the top folder, which is kind of shadowy. It says .git. You need to have a special setting, at least on the Windows machine, to even see that kind of a file. And I believe it might be true even on Mac. That's called a hidden folder. I said file, I meant folder. For those of you who are watching that happen to be on Windows, I'll show it to you on Windows. I'd have to look it up on Mac. But if you just get your control panel and look at, I think it's appearance and personalization, I believe. Yeah, File Explorer options. If you click on that for a second, you have all this weird tab here. And if you click on View, under File and Folders, there's a bunch of options. You can take your time here. Hidden files and folders. It defaults on the Windows operating system to don't show hidden files, folders, or drives. Remember, they're trying to make the Windows operating system for your average user, not for a developer. And that would confuse an average user. The second thing, it defaults to having this checkbox right here checked. Hide the extensions for known file types. So if it's .exe or .txt or whatever, if your computer recognizes it, it's not going to show it. Now, that might be nice for an average consumer. For an engineer, it drives us up a wall. So I always uncheck that and check show hidden files, folders, and drives. I just want you to see that. It's very helpful to an engineer.
On Mac,
so we have all. Go ahead.
On Mac, that is Command-Shift period.
Thank you
While you're
very
in
much.
the folder.
Okay, good. So on an ad hoc basis in a folder, if you do Command Shift period, it'll pop up and let you see hidden folders.
Yes.
You're amazing.
And you can switch it on and off.
Okay, thank you. Now here's the whole reason I brought that up is, what if I was coming back to this after the weekend or whatever, and I forgot, I'm like, wait, did I actually make a repo? The way to know for sure you made a repo is, do I have a .git folder? Because inside here is all of the Git information. Don't look at that. Okay, good. So I do have a repo locally. Now, the next thing I need to make sure is, do I have all of my changes locally committed to my local repo? So if I do a git status, it'll show me. So here's my git status. I'm on the branch called master. We'll come back to that in a moment. I have changes that aren't even staged to be committed. So first process is stage, then is commit, and then finally, we're going to connect to a remote repository. But I don't have anything staged for commit. So no changes added to commit, use git add. So let's do that. Let's do git add. Now, I'm not going to add all the specific files I changed. I want all of them in there. So I'm going to say git add dot. That means add any new files in the current directory or new changed files. Now I'm going to do git commit. And the message is going to be got get addresses endpoint running. That's a nice descriptive comment of the state of the code I'm about to commit. We left off last night with the point with this get addresses endpoint was running.
So the comment that you did over there, it will update on the GitHub, the portal that we see?
Yes, out on GitHub. Yes, when I push this code there, it will be there as the most recent commit message. Because we're going to push this whole repository, including all of its history, out to GitHub in this repository. So let's see again how to do that. The instructions are right here. It says, push an existing repository from the command line. So let's take a look at what these commands are. First of all, git remote add means please add a specific repository that's on another machine. And this is important. Add another repository on a different machine that my local repository will consider a remote repository. There is now established connection between the two. And we're going to give that remote repository a name from the point of view of the local repository. That name is origin. We're going to call that remote repository origin. So from the point of view of my repository on my computer, it has a connection to a distant repository, and that repository is so important for a specific reason, we're going to call it origin. And then, of course, we give the actual address to the repository. Any questions about that first line?
No, sounds good.
Good. Now, why do we call it origin?
It's a good starting point.
Yeah, that's true as well. Here's the philosophy behind it. There's a lot of different ways you can arrange your source control with this distributed source control program called Git. But one of the most common patterns is to decide upon one of the many repos that will be available to be the source of truth. Because in a moment here, we're going to have 4 repos, 4 exactly identical copies. One on my computer, one up in GitHub, and one on each of your computers. So for a moment, just for a split second in time, there'll be 4 identical copies of this code. We as a team need to decide upon which of those copies we are going to keep as the source of truth. where everything else follows from it. And that's what origin means philosophically. It's the origin of the whole code base. Now, we had to start on my computer, but from this point forward, if you're going to do any development work, you start from there. And that's what you guys are going to experience. You're going to start from there, not from my computer. It is possible that we could establish a connection right now from your computer, Brandon, to my computer, and you could reach in and you could grab the contents of my repo. I've never done it because we don't arrange things that way, but it can be done. Why not? We can establish authentication. My computer's attached to the internet, so is yours. We could do that. We're not going to do it though. What we're going to do is we're going to use this repository that's out on GitHub as our source of truth. So let's do that first part right here. And then we're going to explain the second part. So I just do that from the command line. Remember, for my local repository, I'm going to add a connection to a remote repository, and we're going to call it origin. That's done. You get no feedback, except there's no error. Now, does anyone know what this command right here does?
Changes the branch.
Yeah, changes the branch or changes the name of the branch.
You're switching from master to main.
Nope.
Do you know why? Do you know why it is exactly they did that though?
You're not changing from master to main. No,
Okay.
well, let me clarify. When you say change, you mean change the name, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry. I thought you meant that there were two branches and I was switching to one called main.
Well, I remember using GitHub when it was originally master, and then all of a sudden I had to switch everything over to main, and it was a headache for a little while because I was still pretty new with using Git.
And you're asking why that change happened?
Yeah.
It's because people collectively pulled their head. I'm just be very frank. Society started to pull their head out of their behinds and recognize that the word master is deeply offensive.
Okay, I see. It's changed the wording then.
Yep,
gotcha.
Exactly. And it's just taken a while to ripple out through. For example, the actual Git program, which is not GitHub, the Git program that we all downloaded on our machines from git.org or wherever it is, gitscm.org, it hasn't made the change yet.
Okay. That's
so when you make a repository locally, it's going to have that. So the instructions for GitHub, because they're really cool people there, said, hey, listen, you're going to change the name to main because guess what? We require it to be main. So that's what that's all about. Let's hit enter and watch in the bottom left. Here's my GitHub symbol and I am on the master branch. When I execute this, it should change and keep in sync. Good. It changed the name. I'm now on the main branch. Now it's the exact same branch. I've only got one branch locally. I didn't make any other branches, but we renamed it. All right. Finally, we're going to push and we're going to push to the origin. What's origin? Well, sorry, it's down here. We're going to push to origin. What's the origin? Well, we defined it right here. It's a remote connection. It's a remote repository. So we're going to push to the main branch. Let's grab that and hit enter. And you can watch the internet traffic. Here it is. It's operating locally to get everything together. It's compressing them and it's about to send them. Look at that. It sent them to the remote. Here is the remote's address. It set up a new branch out on the remote called main. And the branch main, our branch, is set up to track the remote branch main that's on origin. There's a connection there between them. So we just set that up. Any questions about what just happened? No. All right, let's go look at the repo. And now if I click on code, there's all my code.
Oh, cool. How cool. Okay.
And you can see the most recent commit. Now notice, again, learning how to navigate this. Notice this, the commit message you can see clearly is right here in the middle. Notice the commit message is only on some of the folders and files. It's only on the ones that had changes in that commit. I didn't change these other files. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good, cool.
But
All
now,
right.
but
Yeah.
now, so now this is the second copy, and everything we are gonna branch out of it. We're gonna
Well,
clone.
yeah, yes, but not yet. Right now, the first thing we do is that we need to get both of you
Mhm.
to pull down the current version of the code. Because when you can think about it, from this point forward, during our entire development project,
Mhm.
this repository out on GitHub is our source of truth. This is where, one, if we are going to initiate any work, we start from what is the state of this repository, and our work is meant to change or add on to that. The second thing is that out here, we need to make a commitment as a team that we will have at least one branch out here that always remains capable of being compiled, that there aren't any syntax errors or anything in it. Now, that's a whole separate thing. That's under the concept of continuous integration, which is automating the process of allowing someone's changes into a specific branch. We're not going to go deep into that, but I just want to bring that up, that the way we're doing this, which is super common amongst a lot of teams, we now have right on the screen in front of you the most important repository there is. This is where we go to always begin some work, like begin working on a feature. We start from what's out here, and then we pull it down to our machine and then do our work locally, as you guys are going to see. You'll experience it. And generally, almost every team on the planet will you make the agreement. We're never going to let it be that at least one branch in this repository is capable of being compiled and then delivered and deployed as a working application. We'll never let the company be so unsafe as to not have a buildable, deployable version of our code. Again, that's a subject for another time. But let's get you guys going with this. This is awesome. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to start with Carolina. So what I want you to do is get your computer ready to share, because you're going to share your screen.
Okay.
And when you're ready, just share your screen and we'll go to VS Code.
Okay, sure. 1 second.
Oh, yeah, you know what?
Oh.
Fine, we only have a half an hour. I'm going to guide you through this. We do need to remember at the beginning of our next session that we want to document in our README what steps a new developer would need to take to get up and running.
Okay.
Take some notes.
I made the thing disappear. Okay, let me.
It's fine. Take your time.
Where do I go to share the screen? Participants, share screen there. Okay, let's do this over here. Okay. I think this is too large. I think you should share the other screen, right? Or is this fine?
That's fine.
You're good.
Yeah, and there's lots of things you can do inside your VS Code to make it better. Okay, good. So go ahead and pull up VS Code.
Okay. It's not taking a second to load.
You have a nice monitor. How big is your monitor?
34.
Nice.
I think.
I don't like you anymore.
Oh, this is my cheap one. I have a curved one too.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Brandon,
I'm extra.
I was gonna say, Brandon, we're in the presence of royalty. I didn't know. Okay, good. So do me a favor and go ahead and enlarge this. It's totally fine that it'll fill the whole screen. I have no problem with that.
I can share on my laptop screen.
No, it's fine. It's totally
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
But what I would like you to do right now is just hit Command plus to see if that'll enlarge the font size a little bit.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't.
Okay, that's fine.
It's running prettier.
Oh yeah. That is pretty small. Yeah, go ahead and switch to your laptop if you can.
Oh, there we go. Okay, and now it's increasing.
It did. Okay, good. All right.
Okay.
So here's what we do. Do me a favor and do File, and then Open. Do Open Folder. Sorry, do File, Open Folder. That was my mistake.
File, Open Folder. Okay.
And I want you to find where do you store your repositories? Where do you put your coding projects for the most part?
Sure. Yeah. So desktop, and then so I'll just create a folder here.
Yeah, do that. It's totally fine. Just I would call it repos.
Okay. Okay.
Excellent. Good. Now go ahead and open that folder. I think if you click open, it should open in that folder. We'll see. So VS Code should open good on repos. Now go at the top to the terminal line. If you all the way to the very top where you did file, another one
okay.
is terminal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's to the right, terminal at the end.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And give me new terminal.
Oh, this is new. This is new land for me.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Okay.
Okay.
You'll learn how to use VS Code along the way. It's super awesome.
Okay.
All right. So you're using Z Shell. That's fine. You're on a Mac. It should work just fine. We may need to switch to Bash, but we'll just see.
Yeah.
From right here is where you're going to actually clone. Now, you don't need to make a directory to put all the code in, because when you do a clone operation to pull down the code from that remote repository, when you
Okay.
do that clone, it will make a directory for you. The name of the directory will be the name of the repository.
Okay.
So what I need you to do is go on GitHub. You're gonna pull up your browser and literally go to GitHub.
Okay.
This is what you'd have to do on the job, is like you'd go to GitHub. Now, I want you to find the repo that I shared with you.
Okay. Wonderful.
I think on the left, you do search or jump to at the very, very top left.
Okay.
Just go in there, type Kairesorg, K-I-R-E.
Okay. Here we go.
Good, excellent.
Beautiful. Okay.
Now, click on the green button that says code.
Okay.
And do you see the URL that has a copy icon? It says HTTPS.
Yes.
Just
Mhm.
copy it.
Beautiful. Okay.
Now, go back to your terminal inside VS Code
Okay.
and type git clone and then paste that in. And don't hit enter. I want to just look at it and make sure that we've got everything right.
Okay.
Good. So we're literally going to clone that entire repository. So first thing, it'll make a folder called Learn in Public MERN. And then inside it, it'll pull down the entire branch, including all past history.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and hit enter.
Wow, I feel so cool, so official doing this.
Good. So you now have all the code. And in fact, if you do CD down inside that Learn in Public folder that was created,
Okay.
if you just CD space L, oh no, backspace for a second. Let me just show you what you're looking at.
Push enter.
No, don't do that. You just hit backspace and type LS. I want you to see everything that's in here.
Okay.
Nope, backspace all the way. I'm still seeing CD.
Okay, so just ls.
Yeah, just list the contents of the directory.
Okay.
Hit enter. So you have a folder in here called Learn in Public MERN. That wasn't there before
Okay. Yeah.
because repos was a brand new folder. So now you made this when you did your git clone. We want a change directory down inside there. So CD for change directory, type CD
Okay.
and space. Now you're going to type out the name of that folder, Learn in
Okay.
Public MERN. Now, don't type the whole thing out.
Okay.
You see
Okay.
how it pre-fetches it for you? I
Yep.
think if you hit enter, it should
Or
grab
tab.
that. Yeah, hit enter and it'll pull you down inside that folder. Good. Do you see it? You're down inside the folder now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do LS
Sure.
again and see what's inside here.
Okay. Package.
Oh, looky, it's all of our stuff.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, now you want to open Visual Studio Code in the exact location you're at. You want to be open to that exact folder. So type code space dot. This should open VS Code right in the current directory.
So just go in, enter.
Yeah. And there it is. So on the left in the File Explorer, you can see the entire folder and file structure that I had on my machine.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Good. Now we're going to jump away to Brandon. You can explore this as you like. We're going to get Brandon to do the same thing. So go ahead and stop.
I've already done. I'm pretty familiar with it, so I just did it already.
You're a big old nerd. That's awesome. Love it.
Show off.
No, exactly. I just, you know,
it's okay.
Save us some time.
It's okay. So watch this, Carolina. Brandon, you get to be the first to do the database part then.
Woo!
Oh boy.
Go ahead and share your screen when you're ready. Are you rocking a Mac or a Windows machine right now, Brandon?
I'm using Mac. I'm using
good.
2 monitors, so I don't know if I might have to switch some stuff over. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So what he needs to do, and Carolina, you should follow along as well as we build this, is you both need to have MySQL running locally.
Okay.
And we need to get a full copy of the database that I happen to have locally onto your machine.
Okay.
So, and this is a very real thing that we have to deal with all the time in development teams, is making sure that the local database that each of us has on our computer stays the same. And there's a whole bunch of strategies behind that. We're not going to get into it in the context of this this class though, or this build in public. Okay, good. So you already have all that down. Do me a favor, go to the browser and just type new tab, MySQL Server Mac. Yeah, click on that first one. So let me explain a couple of things that we're going to download. There are 2 different computer programs we need. We need an actual database server that is a client server program that when you spin it up and running, it holds the contents of databases and it sits there listening for requests. We need that. I happen to have that installed on my computer. But we also need a second program, which is the GUI. The thing that I showed you is called the workbench. That's not the server. It is, in fact, just a user interface that lets you see what's going on with the server. So the first thing is we need to install the server. So you are on, what Mac OS are you rocking?
Let's just see, Big Sur 11.1.
How do you see that?
Oh, no, put that back up there. Put that back up there.
How did you do to see that, Brandon? So I can check.
Click on the Apple symbol on the top left and about this Mac.
Oh, okay.
Now leave that there and let me just read for a moment.
Okay.
So MacBook Pro, late 2013. Okay, good. So, and you're running version 11.1 and the processor is an Intel i7. Okay, so do you know how to find the right download here?
No, I'd probably just go with the first one.
Okay, wrong one. I'll tell you why. Okay. A little bit of history, and you'll pick this up as you're an engineer, but if nobody ever thinks to tell you, it'll be a mystery for a long time. Look down at the one about 5 down that says Mac OS 11 x86, 64-bit. Yeah, and there's one that says Archive Test Suite. Look above the one that doesn't have Test Suite on it. It's the 4th one in the list.
This one.
Yeah, now don't click on it yet. I want to explain something. Intel, for the longest time, was really the only game in town when it came to microprocessors. There were others, but they were the most popular by far. And they had a family of chips, CPUs, that ended with 86 in the family name. There was the 8086 and others, okay? So if you see x86, that's referring to an Intel chip. Okay. So now pull up your about again. About your Mac. And so on processor, 2.3 gigahertz, quad core, Intel. So that tells you need the Intel one, that's the x64. ARM is a whole different technology for chips. And I believe those are made by AMD, American or something micro devices. I forgot what AMD stands for. Another huge chip manufacturer. But the point is you have an Intel chip, so you need this x86 one. So go ahead and download that x86 64-bit. Yeah.
Okay, and why is he downloading the fourth one, not the second one?
No, okay, stop for a moment. Go ahead and go back. Go real slow, by the way, because there is. By the way, I want to tell you both of you what you're doing right now. In installing a relational database server and a GUI for it is amongst the most giant pain in the butts that an engineer goes through ever. And we have to do it all the time. And it's never gotten much better in 20 or 30 years. So one thing, I'm gonna need you to go real slow because it's super easy to have something be configured wrong. And then you have to delete the entire installation. And two, there's just an opportunity along the way for me to teach you a couple of things. So the reason we're not using the top Mac OS 11 is because it says ARM. That refers to a CPU manufactured by
No,
American,
I got that part. Like we're using the Intel one, got the part. But if you see the second one is also but it says DMG.
Oh, no, yeah, it's a DMG and that's easier to install. Actually, you're totally right. We don't need to compress the tar and then unpack it.
Okay,
Never
what
mind.
does
You just want a DMG
call.
file.
Yeah, that's a good call. Go ahead and grab
so
the DMG.
what does compressed tar means?
I forget what TAR stands for, but it literally compresses the actual file itself, makes it smaller, but then you have to use a utility to unpack it, uncompress it. And we don't need to go through that step. Who cares if we're downloading a bigger file?
Okay.
Good question, good catch. So yeah, that second one down, download it. Now, you do need an account with Oracle, who owns MySQL. The good news is, unless you already have one. Oh, you can do it. They finally did that. Never mind. Click on that. Yes.
Yeah, I got excited when I saw it too. I was like, oh, cool.
Yay. Good. And you'll be doing the same thing in the background, all right, Carolina?
Well, I have a little issue over here. So mine is a Mac OS Catalina version 10.15.7. So, and then all the options that we have over there, it's Mac OS 11.
That's right. 2016 called. They want their computer back. I'm kidding. All right, that's fine. It's fine.
I did not get the joke.
Some nerd humor there.
Just that operating system is really old. That's all.
Okay. The computer is 2010, I believe. So it's very old.
It's totally fine. We should be able to make things work. You're going to have to find an older version of it. I'll need to help on that. So let's get his up and running and then I'll help you on yours.
Okay.
Again, I want you to go through this and I want people watching this to see us go through it because this is real. We deal with this. We all have different machines with different versions of the OS. But we've all got to replicate some sort of a situation on our computer to be able to actually run the code and do software development. Okay, good. So go really slow during all these portions, okay? All right, so go back to the top. All right. Thank you for choosing popular open source database system. We're gonna install the reference manual. Okay, okay, good. All right, click continue and then stop for a second. Go to the scroll to the top of this. Okay, so this is the license. Now, I know normally we just like click continue, like accept it, that's fine. I wanna point out one thing. Scroll to the very top, keep it there. Okay, you see the very first word? You guys have any idea what that word is? Have you ever seen it before? GNU?
I have seen it. Don't remember.
Okay. It's an acronym, obviously, right?
Yeah,
GNU. And it stands for, and by the way, you can pronounce this GNU or new. I'm going to say GNU just to help with clarifying something. What this acronym stands for, this acronym GNU stands for GNU's not Unix. It refers to itself in its own acronym.
Interesting.
First of all, that's called a recursive acronym because computer programmers are nerds. The second thing is that it is an alternate version of the old school operating system called Unix. Unix was owned by a company and charged a lot of money for it. And so some enterprising programmers made another version that did the same thing, but they created it. And when they opened it up to the world, they gave it one of the most permissive licenses at the time. They're like, look, we didn't do this to make money. We just wanted this available for people and not in the hands of people who are trying to make money off of it. And so this license is a license that aligns to those principles. The people that made the new operating system, the GNU operating system, this was their license or one very much like it. I just want you to understand what the heck you're looking at. Like that's what GNU is an operating system based on Unix. And when they licensed it, this was their license. So go ahead and go to the bottom and click continue or whatever, and you don't have to read all of it. All right, now again, go really slow. Do you have plenty of space on your computer?
I do.
All right, click install. Now go and put your thing in here. On every single step, go very slowly. Let me look and see where we're at. Because this is the kind of thing that you're either going to have someone help you do, or might be pre-installed, or you're going to make mistakes and it's going to stink and you're going to have to uninstall and start over. Can't tell you how many times I've done it.
It's
all
my
right,
specialty.
Let's see. Don't use this legacy thing. Just click next. All right. Now, this is super important. Before you type this in, you cannot forget this password. I can't tell you what a nightmare it is if you forget this password. And this is true for any database. You must remember the password. But you come up with yours. And before you type it in, bear in mind that we are streaming publicly, and that when you configure your connection to your local database, you're going to have to put that in plain text. So don't choose a password that you use anywhere else, please. I want you both to be safe in this.
Oh.
Oh, wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go online and find a password generator real fast.
Whatever
like,
it is, write it
screen.
down somewhere else or whatever you need to do to keep it safe. But you cannot forget that, or we have to, you can kind of get around it, but it's really painful.
Sure.
All right, so click finish.
Oh, I'm just writing it down.
Oh yeah,
sure.
take your time. Another reason that I kind of wanted to go through all of this is I want to also give people a sense for how long it can take to get up and running just to be able to start contributing to a project. It's not instant at all. There's a lot of setup things.
Uh-oh.
Now, what password are you putting in there? That's for your computer.
Yeah, this is actually for the SQL, right?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, that's just for your computer. Yeah,
Sorry, I was ready to go.
Oh, I know. I've done the same thing.
Well, I was scared because you only had to put it in one time and there was no confirm on the password.
I know.
So I was like, did I type it in incorrectly?
And again, this is part of why I want you to experience the pain of installing these things. It's a bad experience on almost everything, from MySQL to SQL Server to Postgres. Some of them are better than others, but none of them is a lot of fun.
You think they could at least throw a confirm password in there? That would have been
right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Now I'm scared of writing a strong password.
Okay, so go ahead and click close.
Julian says leave it empty.
Oh,
The password?
Yeah.
Okay, you can do that if you want to. I don't ever do that.
Why? Oh, why?
Because it's just the idea of not securing a database just.
But this is a fictitious database.
I know. I've literally never not put a password on a database. So it would probably work.
We can hack into 6 season whatever because he just gave us his password.
Right. 6 season. Yep.
Yeah, 6 season. Yeah, let's hack into his stuff.
All your databases belong to us. Okay. Okay, good. So we only installed the server. Now we need to install the SQL Server Workbench. So open up another tab in your browser and just type MySQL Server Workbench. Download.
Oh.
That's fine. You found it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's not downloads though. So go back and do downloads. I don't know if it's going to be easy to find. Yeah. And then there, click on that bad boy. So click on the drop down that says Mac OS for operating system. I just wanted to make sure there aren't any. Okay, good. Yeah, keep it on Mac OS. And yes, x86, 64-bit, download that. It's been a long time since I installed this. I didn't know there was that option to not have to log in. And of course, I have an Oracle account. So, okay, good. So go ahead and run that, that installer. And by the way, Carolina, well, all of us, we're going to end off no matter where we are on this at about an hour. That's totally fine. We'll pick up more on Tuesday. Yeah, let's let this pop up and hopefully we can at least get his up and running. So yeah,
I just already figured out how to do mine, I think.
Well, hold on just a second. Oh, good. Okay. You went super fast there. Did you click the navigate backward at the top left just for a second? So drag that onto applications. You know how to do that?
Yes. It popped up on my main scring and I already did it. Sorry about that. Yeah, see, it's right here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So I think double click on it and see if it'll start.
Oh, yeah, I'm just letting it finish real quick.
Oh, I see it. I'm lagging a little bit on the video.
Yeah, so I'm.
So Carolina, did you find an older version of it or something?
So yeah, I found an article that tells you how to do it, but I have let me start opening and see if it works.
Yeah.
I don't think you will actually. Let me see. No, you know what? It's not gonna work.
Okay. I've helped someone through this with a version around the age, around as old as yours are. Okay, let's all get back to what we have here for Brandon. All right, so Brandon, you have already on here. Don't click on anything yet. Let me just explain what you're looking at. The program up and running is your workbench. It's a GUI. You can even see it. It says MySQL Workbench is the official GUI tool for MySQL. It lets you design, create, and browse your database schemas. A schema is essentially the structure and content of a database. So we want to actually connect to that bad boy. So click on that rectangle. It says local instance. Click on it once. And now go very slowly. First thing, before you even type it in, click on the button below it that says save password. Then you don't have to enter it in ever again.
Oh, shit.
What happened?
That's fine. I accidentally typed it in incorrectly.
Okay, that's totally fine.
Hopefully you didn't type it in correctly the first time.
Yeah, I know.
There we go.
Okay, good. Excellent. So that worked. Okay. Now, the next thing we're not going to get into because we only have 7 minutes. And what that involves is how do we get my database with all of its content onto his computer? Now, there's a lot of strategies behind this, right? And just because of the length of time we're going to be working on this, we're not going to dive too deeply into it. We're going to take a very brute force approach to it, which is I'm literally going to create a backup of my database as a file, and I'm going to put it out on Dropbox, and Brandon will pull it down and he will create a database using that backup.
Can't you just upload to get the to GitHub, just like all
Not
other
the
files?
database.
No.
And why is that?
GitHub only stores text files for the most part. It'll put other things on there, but it stores text files. If you recall what source control is, it's control for source code. Source code is just text files.
Okay.
So GitHub has a little bit of flexibility in that it'll let you put things on there that are like image files, that kind of stuff. You can store them up there, but it doesn't play nice with a database file. You might be able to, now that I think about it. You know what? I'm prepared to be wrong, Carolina. The reason I don't instantly know an answer on that is because that's totally not the normal way you would do this. There are systems in place to keep your database in sync, and they have to do with those files I showed you called migration files. Go ahead and open up VS Code. Oh, never mind. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. I didn't give you these at all.
Oh.
And I'm gonna go and I'll take over. And let me share my screen.
Wow,
I'll show
Eric's
you,
lacking.
I know. Let me show you what I used to create the database. And I briefly referred to it last night, but this just to demonstrate one way to keep everything in sync. So if we look here in the inside the source folder, the whole Sequelize folder, it has this thing called migrations. And I briefly referred to them, but these migrations are date stamped. You can see that. Like 2021, 10/7, they're all date stamped. And they represent the consecutive changes that we want to make to a database. Now, they're written in JavaScript code, but remember, Sequelize is an object relational mapper. It can map between JavaScript code and functions and tables. So JavaScript down into tables, and that's what we want. So you can actually, if you had these migration files, you could, from the command line, issue an instruction to read through these and modify a database in accordance with those files. And that would bring it totally, quote unquote, up to date. Again, there's a lot more to it, but I want you to at least have a little bit of understanding of there are different strategies around making sure that my version of the database is the same as yours, is the same as yours when you're doing all this development work. And it's a super important thing to think about. For now, though, like I said, and we'll do this on Tuesday, we're just going to brute force it. I'm going to make a backup, and you'll restore from that backup. That's going to be just fine for what we're doing.
Sounds good.
So, all right, good. So we're at about an hour. We've at least got you both having the code local, okay? And then Carolina, we need to handle the database for yours next, okay?
Okay.
And I just want to really clarify something just for you guys and for anybody who's watching this or watches this in the future. This is a quote unquote build in public. And so far we haven't built a lot of code. Yeah, in front of you, if we switch over here to the Learn in Public project right here, we've got actually a fully functioning application. And as we've demonstrated, it has at least one endpoint, but we're not just going to continue with me building it, because that's not what happens in the real world. What happens in the real world is exactly what you're seeing here. One developer starts on the project, gets at least to a certain point, and then says, all right, now we're ready to bring in the rest of the team. And getting the rest of the team involved so they can meaningfully contribute is not always the smoothest thing. And that's what we're going through right now and what we're showing you, so you can kind of know what to expect on the job. So there you go. All right, cool. Do you guys have any lingering questions?
No.
Okay.
I'll make sure to try to install the MySQL on this machine. If not, I'll use another machine for the next class.
Oh, good, excellent. Yeah, and if you've got one with a little more modern operating system, that'd be totally cool. The cool thing is that Visual Studio Code works on pretty much every operating system,
Yeah.
and there's a Node version for every operating system. We're gonna be just fine. So
Okay, cool beans.
cool, excellent. All right, well, thank you guys. And for anybody watching now or in the future, thank you for watching this. We'll be back in a couple of days to get all three of us up and running to be able to contribute. And then I'm going to have each of you start building out more API endpoints, building in routing for the endpoint, and then the controller function that can reach down into the database and do the required operation. And I'll be able to guide you through all that.
So we'll meet again Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Is that right?
Yep.
So
Exactly.
Okay.
Tuesday, 6:30 Pacific.
Okay.
Awesome. Well done, everybody. Have a great night. We're calling it right at 8 o'clock Pacific, and we'll see you all in 3 days.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.